The family of Simone Jasmin, better known as the Queen of the South, has rubbished claims that she was involved in murder or attempted murder. Jasmin's believed to have led a ruthless drug gang in Wentworth, Durban, which supplied heroin to townships around the city. She was laid to rest today after being shot dead last Thursday by a group of men. ENCA's Litiwe Mdluli reports.
It was a warm Thursday afternoon in Wentworth, Durban. Traffic hummed, shops buzzed, and Simone Jasmin, known across the city's underworld as Jasmin or simply the Queen, moved through the streets like she always had, untouched, unafraid. But power has a price, and in the world she ruled, no one stays untouchable forever. She was still behind the wheel when the bullets tore through the glass. No warning, no chance to run, just a few seconds, and it was over. For years, Simone built an empire that ran on control, silence, and fear. Now that empire was about to collapse, not in a courtroom, not in a sting, but in a flash of violence that no one saw coming. Simone Jasmin didn't inherit power, she earned it, in a world where women rarely made it past the front line. Born and raised in Wentworth, she grew up surrounded by harsh realities: poverty, addiction, turf wars. These weren't stories told on the evening news, they were the rhythm of daily life. Kids learned young that survival meant being 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Simone was no exception. By her early 20s, she was already known in small circles, sharp, strategic, and fiercely private. While others got caught in the chaos of shootouts or drug busts, she stayed low, watching, learning, adapting. And when opportunity came, she took it. Unlike many gang leaders who grew through family legacy or brute violence, Simone took another route. She studied the gaps, where the money flowed, who controlled it, and who looked the other way. Her rise wasn't flashy, it was methodical. She didn't need to be the loudest voice in the room, she just made sure every room answered to her. Durban is a city of contrasts. Wealth rubs shoulders with struggle, and beneath it all runs a quiet, deadly economy, fueled by drugs, smuggling, and corruption. Simone tapped into that current with unnerving precision. She started small, local supply routes, minor distribution. But what set her apart wasn't what she sold. It was how she moved. Jasmin understood the power of legitimacy: nightclubs, laundromats, car dealerships, fronts that scrubbed her money clean and kept her above suspicion. And while most syndicates operated from the street up, Simone worked inside out. Her connections weren't just in alleyways, they were in offices. Rumors swirled of paid-off officials, protection agreements, and even ties to local politicians. But she kept her distance from the spotlight. No wild parties, no Instagram flexing, just business. By the late 2010s, Simone Jasmin controlled one of the most significant drug pipelines in KwaZulu-Natal: cocaine, heroin, meth. She didn't touch the product herself, but nothing moved without her word. Her empire stretched beyond Durban, into townships across the province. Her name was whispered with fear, and sometimes with admiration. Because while she ruled with an iron grip, she also gave back. Groceries for struggling families, school fees paid, community protection when police couldn't be trusted. To some, she was a menace. To others, a guardian. But power like that? It doesn't last. By 2021, cracks had begun to show. The business was growing too fast, too wide, too exposed. Police raids became more frequent. Once friendly connections went cold, and inside her own organization tensions were rising. Some of her lieutenants, men who had helped build the empire, started questioning her decisions, whispering in back rooms, taking side deals, testing limits. Simone, ever the strategist, saw it coming. She started to tighten her circle: fewer meetings, more surveillance, trusted only the most loyal, but loyalty in this world is measured in months, not years. She tried to patch the ship, reassigned power, punished those who crossed her, but it wasn't enough. Outside forces were circling too. Rival gangs, especially those tied to older, male-dominated syndicates, resented her rise. They had watched a woman climb to power in a city they thought they owned. Now they wanted her seat. Still, Simone didn't flinch. She held press, controlled turf, ran her routes. But the silence around her grew louder. One shipment missed, then another. Someone was feeding information. She didn't know who, not yet, but she felt it. The betrayal wasn't coming. It was already inside the walls. Thursday, April 18, 2024. Just another afternoon in Wentworth. Simone left her apartment around midday. She was calm, composed, as usual. She got into her car, a white Mercedes-Benz she'd owned for years, and drove along Lancelot Road. No bodyguards, no backup. Just her and the rhythm of a neighborhood she had ruled for over a decade. She stopped at an intersection near Woodville Road. That's when they came. Witnesses say it was a black vehicle, tinted windows, silent, efficient. It pulled up beside her. The window dropped, and then, gunfire, sharp, fast, precision. 7 bullets were fired. 5 struck her. Her car rolled slowly into the curb. People ran, screamed, but it was too late. By the time emergency services arrived, Simone was already gone. Her death was surgical, not a robbery, not a street hit, an execution, and it sent shockwaves across Durban. When Simone Jasmin was gunned down on a sunny afternoon in Wentworth, the world didn't end in flames. It ended in silence. Not the silence of grief, the silence of fear. On that street where the Queen of the South had fallen, no one dared linger too long. Police tape was strung. The coroner arrived, cameras flashed, but the crowd that gathered kept their distance, not from the scene, but from what it meant. Because everyone knew, if Simone Jasmin could be taken out like that, anyone could. In the following days, her name dominated headlines. Alleged drug queenpin executed in Durban ambush. The stories used the same language, ruthless, feared, powerful, but no one really knew who she'd been. Not the way Wentworth did. To some, she was a criminal mastermind. To others, a protector. To a few, she was family. But the city's underworld understood one thing clearly. This wasn't the end of a reign. This was the start of a reckoning. Because when someone at the top falls, the foundation below doesn't just shake, it shatters. Simone didn't leave behind a legacy of headlines or fame. She left behind something far more dangerous, a fragile, interlocked network of fear, trust, and silence. Her empire hadn't run on violence alone. It ran on structure. Every stash, every shipment, every bank account hidden behind a nail salon or boutique, it all operated because Simone made it work. She wasn't just the boss, she was the architect. And when the architect disappears, the building doesn't collapse all at once. It leans, it cracks, and then, piece by piece, it comes down. In the weeks after her death, reports began to surface of unpaid debts, hijacked supply routes, missing product. Loyalists who once ran sectors of her organization started vanishing. Some ran, others were found in alleys or on beaches, their silence bought the hard way. Rival gangs, long kept at bay by her reach, moved quickly. They seized territory, they claimed names, they made examples. And inside what was left of her organization, no one could agree on who was next in line. Because there was no next. Simone never appointed a second. She never imagined someone else would need to wear the crown. The Queen of the South hadn't just ruled. She had prevented war. Without her, war came back fast. Behind every criminal empire are people, and when the empire falls, they don't disappear. They're left to carry the weight. Simone had children, family, a life beyond the headlines. Her funeral was a contradiction. Heavily attended but tightly controlled. Grief swirled beneath layers of tension. There were no speeches about her underworld reputation, no public declarations, only quiet sobbing, exchanged glances, and unmarked vehicles watching from nearby streets. Family members refused to speak to most journalists. What they did say, they said carefully, she wasn't what they made her out to be. She took care of us. If she did wrong, she paid the price. But that's not all she was. The truth is, Simone Jasmin was many things. A woman who carved power out of a system stacked against her. A mother who sent her kids to private school with money no one questioned. A leader who protected her people, even as she moved the very products that harmed them. And her death didn't just leave behind a broken network. It left behind broken people. In the months that followed, her inner circle, those who had remained closest, began to disappear. Some were victims of turf wars. Others went into hiding. Some tried to step into her shoes, only to find out the hard way that those shoes were always lined with glass. One former associate, speaking anonymously, said, "We thought she made us strong. Turns out she was the only thing holding it together." Weeks became months, and the case went cold. There were no arrests, no suspects, no official motive released. The police said they were investigating, but the streets knew better. The CCTV cameras that should have captured the shooting had suffered technical failure. The car used in the drive-by was found, stripped and burned, in an industrial lot 2 days later. Every lead led to a dead end. In Wentworth, people stopped asking questions, and in their silence, fear took root. Simone's name still held weight, but now it was whispered differently, not with respect, with warning. The woman who had once guaranteed protection was now a cautionary tale, and the city changed. Shootings increased, territory lines blurred. Communities that had lived under a brutal but predictable order now found themselves in the middle of chaos. There was no longer one empire. There were many, smaller, hungrier, and more reckless. For some, this was justice, a criminal taken off the board. For others, it was a tragedy. The collapse of a structure that, however illegal, had kept worse violence at bay. And for many, especially those too poor or powerless to escape it, it was just more of the same. A new face, a new name, the same blood in the streets. Because when a figure like Simone Jasmin falls, the legacy isn't just what she built, it's what replaces her. And in this world, what replaces power is always fear. Simone Jasmin didn't live quietly. She wasn't passive. She wasn't lucky. She built something, deliberately, methodically, ruthlessly. She turned street-level chaos into control. She outmaneuvered rivals, law enforcement, and even the expectations placed on women in a world run by men. She climbed where others were crushed. But none of that could save her. Because in the underworld, power is never permanent. It's borrowed, and the interest comes due. Her death wasn't just a headline, it was a turning point. For her city, for her family, for everyone who thought they were protected because they knew her name. In the end, Simone Jasmin's story is not just about crime, it's about what crime leaves behind. Not just bodies, but silence. Not just fear, but emptiness. And one final truth. No matter how high you rise, no matter how many people fear you, the game always ends the same way, with someone else holding the gun, and no warning before it goes off.